The opening scene reveals two young lovebirds, Bara and Gayla. Both of them are completely in love with each other, and even their high school teacher is aware of their relationship. Their love continues to blossom with each passing year. Bara makes sure not to forget their anniversary from their very first one together. Gayla loves Bara without doubt, but he's not making any move to marry her despite her colleagues, and even his family members who are constantly urging him to marry her. She enjoys celebrating each anniversary memorably, and whenever she brings up the subject of marriage, he's always imploring her to be patient. The both of them have gotten their lives figured out, as Gayla is a banker working with a huge bank in town, while Bara is also doing well in his place of work. On their 8th anniversary, both of them are sitting in the car parked in the mall's parking lot. Gayla wonders if he forgot that this marks their 8th year of being together. She lightly asks why there's no cake, and he's so quiet. Her imagination runs wild as she thinks he may intend to change the cake to a ring this year. Bara, who has been wearing a long face, suddenly drops the bombshell. He reveals that he wants a breakup, and Gayla's face changes from a beautiful smile to a bewildered look. After the incident on their anniversary, Gayla and her friend, Sydney, accompany her colleague and friend Nandi to the airport. They've come together to see off Nandi's girlfriend Jessica at the airport. Jessica is traveling to Melbourne to complete her studies. They notice that Gayla has been sober. Jessica wishes Bara would propose to her soon, and just before their very eyes, Nandi brings out a ring and puts it on Jessica's finger. Gayla is about to cry, but controls herself as she's not ready to share. After Jessica leaves them to go board her flight, Gayla bursts into tears, revealing that Bara broke up with her. Her friends immediately give her a comforting hug, as they now understand why her mood has been different. Later, when all three of them are out of the airport's reception, Gayla shares that he refuses to tell her why he wants to break up. Nandi is pissed on hearing that after Bara broke up with his friend, he even ordered a cab to drop her at home. However, he still needs to comfort Gayla, who is already excited to see Bara one more time. Sydney and Nandi make her promise she won't make the first move towards reconciliation with Bara. Getting home that same night, Gayla texts Bara asking for them to meet, but he refuses to reply to her, even until the next morning. She visits her mom later in the evening, and her excited mother asks about Bara. She makes up some excuses to keep her mother from her current relationship problem. Her mother welcomes her in and begins to advise Gayla not to let the years spent with Bara go to waste, hence she must treat him right. At the office the next day, Nandi and Gayla wonder why she refused to tell her mom about Bara. Nandi discovered that Gayla made the first move and reached out to Bara about 4 times. Although he's disappointed, he moves over to comfort her as she begins to cry. Over at Bara's workplace, he's working on his computer when a colleague named Risti brings him a sandwich and coffee. She claims that lunchtime is past, and he hasn't moved to get himself something to eat. She asks about his breakup with Gayla. He confesses that he feels relieved now that he has revealed the truth to Gayla instead of lying to her all these years. He informs Risti that Gayla has been asking to meet up so she can find out the reason for their breakup. Risti advises him to explain everything to her, as it is the only way both of them can heal faster. At the close of work, Gayla visits the theater, and she can't help but notice other couples in the building. She takes a seat and turns to face her neighbor, who is eating some popcorn. She recalls how Bara and her would fight over popcorn right at the spot where the man was sitting. She smiles sadly as she remembers those beautiful memories of them. The man calls her back to reality, seeing how she's smiling at him for no reason. Her mother calls her phone and Gayla lies that she's with Bala. She asks the person sitting beside her to help her cover up so her mom will stop calling. After her mother's conversation ends, the neighbor introduces himself as Eamon. While their handshake is taking longer than usual, another guy named Reno comes, pulls off Eamon's hand, and reprimands him for flirting. Gayla gives the two a strange look as Reno tries to take away Eamon's attention from her. At the end of the show, Eamon waits for her outside the theater, requesting that she repay his favor by giving him her number. Gayla obliges him, and almost immediately, Reno comes outside of the theater acting like a jealous girlfriend. He calls Eamon babe as he drags him away in an attempt to pass a message to Gayla. The following day at work, Gayla receives a text from Bara accepting to meet with her. She jumps in excitement, screaming joyously. Nandi calls her back to her senses, and she instantly apologizes to the others for causing a distraction. She shows Nandi the text on her phone in excitement. Meanwhile, Bara and Risti are discussing his meeting, which will take place that night. Risti offers to accompany him if he needs someone to talk to after the meeting with Gayla. She confesses she enjoys spending time with him, so it wouldn't be a bother to her. They both agree that she'll wait in the car since he's already feeling awkward when it's not even time for the meeting. Gayla arrives at the venue of her meeting. Their conversation starts a little awkward, as though they are meeting for the first time. Gayla expresses how miserable she feels as she guesses the possible reasons he broke up with her. Bara drops a bombshell, explaining that he is only with her out of commitment, and he can no longer continue. He feels they are not on the same page, and she is not the right woman for him. Gayla instantly begins to cry. Her heart is broken into several pieces, and she doesn't know how to conceal her pain. He threatens to leave if she doesn't stop the meltdown. She quiets down and Bara reveals that he thought the feeling would go away, but it didn't. He even had a dream where he was getting married, and she wasn't his bride in that dream. She cries out, pleading with him to have another dream. However, after that dream, he became sure that she wasn't meant for him. He appreciates her for the 8 years they spent together. He walks out, leaving her behind. Minutes later, the waitress comes to request she pay for the bill, and Gayla cries, even more as she has to pay the bill for the tea Bara ordered. Gayla gets into her vehicle and sees Risty with Bara inside his car just before they drive off. She feels extremely heartbroken and weak to even move. She remains in her car a bit longer until Nandy's calls come in. He encourages her to let her hurt out, as that's the only way she will feel better. He tells her to meet up at Sydney's house since he's already on his way there. On her way to Sydney's house, an officer flags her vehicle down for breaking a rule. Gayla starts crying and lamenting her breakup, and now she's faced with understanding why her time is 2 minutes faster than the officers. She causes a scene with her loud voice, which passersby can hear. The officer gets uncomfortable with the situation, so he excuses her and grants her passage. Still hurt, she advises him to be nice to women and never break his wife's heart. A few minutes later, Gayla arrives at Sydney's home, and her mood is depressing. She apologizes to her friend for arriving late and breaks down in tears as she explains how she bribed the officer with her tears, or else she would have gotten a ticket. Everyone runs to comfort her. Ira, Sydney's little daughter, also comforts her. But her father carries her away so the adults can have some time to converse. Gayla narrates how she had seen Risty in Bara's car, and from their body language, she suspects something is up. Nandy picks up his phone, intending to give Bara a piece of his mind, but to his surprise, Bara has blocked him. The others check their phones and realize that Bara also blocked them. Gayla becomes sad for a minute, but the next minute, she gets up determined. With so much energy, she announces that she's going to beat Bara to his game. She intends to get back at him for flushing their 8-year-long relationship down the drain like nothing ever happened. Her friends offer their full support in helping her find a groom to help her achieve her plan of marrying before Bara. The next day, Nandy and Sydney have already come up with a list of eligible suitors for their friend. They narrow the search down to 3 men, and Gayla is expected to go on her first tennis date with Tian, since he is a lover of the sport. After the game, Tian, a senior manager in an e-commerce company, did most of the talking, and at one point, Gayla started getting irritated as he wouldn't let her speak. The date ends badly, and her friends prepare her to meet the next guy, Akbar. He is the traditional Indian guy who loves kids, so they intend to use Ira as the trap. Gayla goes out on another date with Akbar at a kids' amusement park, using Ira as bait. During their conversation, Akbar was all about his previous exes, and it didn't sit well with Gayla. Just like her last date, Gayla begins to see Bara's face on her date, and he tells her exactly what she needs to hear. Once again, she starts smiling at Akbar, who calls her out of her imaginative world. Getting back, she gives her friends a breakdown of everything that ensued during her date. Nandy blames her for also thinking about her ex. He doesn't see the difference between her and Akbar. Sydney suggests they move on to the last candidate instead of going on about the last failed date. Addie is a doctor, easygoing and down to earth. After seeing a movie at the theater, he offers to take her to a special place, but to her disappointment, it's more of a roadside restaurant that serves bad food. She tries to hide her disgust, and once again, she starts thinking of Bara. Gayla follows her imagination of Bara and walks out on Addie without saying a word to him. On getting to the house, she complains about the food and how just a spoon made her start having diarrhea. Her friends laugh as she narrates everything that went down. Sydney advises her to stop comparing every guy she meets with Bara because it seems as though she is on the lookout only for their flaws. Gayla realizes that she may never be able to move on if they keep helping her, so she thanks them for their efforts so far. Nandy advises her to never attempt using Tinder in her soul search, but Gayla refuses to heed, as the very next thing she does is to go through the profiles of the men on Tinder. Meanwhile, Bara is on a date with her new girlfriend Risty. He intentionally asks her some questions he had previously asked Gayla, and her responses seem to please him much more than the ones Gayla used to give him. The next day, Gayla goes on a date with a man she met on Tinder. In the course of their conversation, she realizes Abe is simply a pervert. She thinks of a way to get rid of him when Eamon, the guy from the movie theater, walks into the restaurant. She sends him a text, pleading he shows up as her uncle and saves her from Abe's lustful talks. Eamon comes to the rescue, and he plays his role quite well, such that Abe becomes uncomfortable. He informs them that he needs to get going. He quickly pays the bill and bolts out of the restaurant, while Gayla and Eamon laugh boisterously. After a successful performance, they walk down the parking lot to where her car is parked. Gayla updates him on all the recent happenings in her relationship life and how she found herself on Tinder. Eamon invites her over to see a movie during the weekend, but she turns him down. They bid each other goodnight. The next day, Gayla meets up with her friends to give them an update on the result of her desperation. They laugh to their heart's content and even advise her to give Eamon a trial, but she refuses because she knows he's gay. The fake uncle and niece meet up again as Eamon volunteers to come meet Gayla at her office garage. Her tire goes flat, and she desperately needs help. Fortunately, Eamon offers to help her. He shows up, and after the repairs, he informs her that he's willing to help with anything she wants, including fixing her broken heart. He receives a call from Reno, and throughout his conversations, Gayla watches him with so many thoughts running through her mind. After the call, Eamon still requests to take her out to dinner, sometime just in case she needs the company. The news of Bara's engagement soon spreads through those who can see his posts on social media. Nandi and Sydney try to hide it from Gayla, but their attempt fails as she hears them talking about it. Later that evening, Gayla visits her parents, who are already aware of Bara's engagement to someone else. In her heartbroken state, she explains all that ensued between them, especially the dream that resulted in him breaking up with her. Suddenly, she bends in pain, holding onto her chest. Her parents panic and quickly take her to a hospital. After several hours, she finally regains consciousness, and her parents rush to her bedside to ensure she is okay. A worried Eamon sends several texts to her phone. The next morning, Eamon comes to visit. He gets to find out that she was admitted after making a call to her office, and as an orthodontist, he can pull a few strings to find out which hospital she is in. Gayla wakes up to find him watching over her from where he's sitting. He helps to feed her breakfast, while he listens to her talk about how she dated Bara for 8 years without a ring, only for him to propose to another after 8 weeks of dating. She confesses that she had almost succeeded in mending her heart, but after hearing that Bara is engaged, the news ruined everything. She thanks Eamon for his pleasant surprise visit. He gently caresses her hair and wishes her a quick recovery before taking his leave. She stares in surprise at how sweet he sounds. After Gayla has been discharged from the hospital, she meets with her friends, and Eamon is the subject of discussion. The kind of special attention he gives to her makes her unsure as to whether he is gay or not. Sydney suggests that there's only one way to find out. She suggests Reno and Eamon to dinner, using Nandi as bait. Nandi is against the idea of setting him up with possible gays, however. Gayla succeeds in bribing him into accepting to play along with their plan. She calls Eamon immediately, and she makes her request, which he gladly accepts. He's been looking forward to spending more time with her, and he's not going to miss dinner tomorrow. The following evening, Gayla reminds Nandi of his body language and gestures just before they arrive at the venue to meet Eamon and Reno. After the pleasantries, Nandi tries to find out if they are an item or not. Reno figures out that Nandi and Gayla must have assumed they are a couple. He shows Eamon a text suggesting that they mess with Gayla and her friend. They watch as Reno playfully uses his hand to caress Nandi until he can't endure it anymore. They burst into laughter as Nandi yells that he'll be leaving already. Eamon calls him back and reveals that they are just playing along with the game they started. He informs them that Reno is married with a child. Reno thinks he is a playboy, and he loves making ladies believe he is Eamon's boyfriend. Even after listening to them, Gayla wants to be sure if Eamon is married or not. Later, Eamon and Gayla get to have some alone time. She blames him for being too vague, as caressing her hair doesn't send much of a strong message to her. As they continue walking and conversing, the both of them agree to take the process of knowing each other slowly, even as she is beginning to make room in her heart for him. Gayla begins to smile more frequently as she receives random texts from Eamon during her work hours. They go out on dates, and on one occasion, after a movie date, Gayla sees a little girl playing all by herself. She runs over to play with the little one, while Eamon can't take his eyes off her in admiration. After everything, he begins to share how he lived a lonely life from childhood, even till when he went to the university and met Reno. In the course of the conversation, he innocently talks about his ex, and Gayla feels slightly offended. He reminds her that she usually talks about Bara a lot. He has no problem with talking about their exes as long as it's on a lighter note. Gayla thinks back, and for a moment that used to be her line when Bara feels talking about one's ex shows how little they think of themselves. Gayla sees a street vendor selling some Karak teller. She requests some and Eamon gets up to get her a portion, even though he doesn't look like he would want to eat it. She remembers the time she had issues with Bara simply because he didn't like a particular street restaurant that she enjoyed eating from. She smiles to herself quietly as she goes back on memory lane while watching Eamon get the food from the vendor. At the end of their date, the duo enjoyed some fun times singing, dancing, and taking turns driving the vehicle. The next day, Risty sees Bara deeply in thought. He claims he's thinking about work. She goes ahead to tell him that she has made a down payment for their wedding venue, but he is quite uncomfortable that she didn't even let him see the venue. He imagines Gayla, who would have ensured he checked out the venue before even paying. She takes her leave, but Bara keeps seeing Gayla's face everywhere, even on the waiter who comes to serve him coffee. At Gayla's office, her dad calls her, requesting she come downstairs, as he wants to introduce her to someone. Nandi suspects her father must be trying to play the role of a matchmaker after her failed relationship with Bara. He teases her that she might be lucky to get a rich old man. Gayla arrives downstairs to meet her father with an old-looking man. She pulls her dad away to clearly state that she's uninterested in an arranged marriage. Her father introduces her to the guru, who soon begins to talk about her love life. Eamon spots them from the parking lot and decides to move close so he can listen to their conversation. The guru reveals that Gayla has a spirit being who is in love with her, and he has been chasing away other men coming around her. He informs her that she will have to stop eating meat as the spirit loves it when she eats meat. G gives her a bottle of water and tells her the direction in which she is to use it for 3 days. When they are about to leave, her dad signals her to do all she's instructed. He comes back pleading that her mother must not know about what happened. After the guru leaves, Eamon makes his presence known. He makes fun of her and her situation that her dad has to go get a psychic to help solve her misery. He offers to drive her home so she can go bathe with the water given to her. On the ride home, they continue discussing her father's actions. She wonders how long it will take him to propose if he is taking so long to even make their relationship official. Eamon gets uncomfortable, so he picks up a bottle of water to take a gulp, unknown to him that it's the water from the psychic. Gayla laughs hard at him and points his attention to it. He almost chokes while she laughs heartily. Later that night, Gayla meets with her friends. They discuss Eamon, and she confesses that she thinks he's even better than Bara, and she wouldn't even want to go back to her ex, though she wonders why Eamon is so slow to make a move to officially start their relationship. Sydney suggests Eamon might be uncertain if she has truly moved on, so she might need to prove to him that she has moved on. Nandi, on the other hand, suggests she find out why Eamon is still single. After all, he might be in his mid-30s. The next day, Eamon does a checkup on Gayla's teeth. Afterwards, she suggests they visit Lucky Bar, which she had refused to visit initially, as it's one of the places she frequented with Bara. He is glad that she's finally moving on. While Eamon is taking off his uniform, Gayla moves over to find out what he thinks about marriage. She discovers that he wouldn't want to base his life on someone who would spend forever in a marriage with him out of commitment. He watched his mother succumb to a broken heart after his parents' divorce. His father had divorced 3 times, and each relationship lasted only 4 years, which confirms that the research saying that love only lasts for 4 years in a marriage is correct. Eamon explains his fears, and Gayla feels that they are on different paths because she wants a family. He pleads with her that they take it slow as he doesn't want to rush and end up hurting someone he loves. A few minutes later, they arrive at the Lucky Bar, and he quickly excuses himself to use the men's room. Gayla finds a table for them in the middle of the room. She spots Bara and Risty a few tables away, so she decides to go greet them and congratulate Risty on their engagement. Eamon soon comes to find her there, and at the mention of Bara's name, he understands what's going on. He introduces himself as Gayla's boyfriend and takes her away from their table. Gayla intentionally clings to him, chatting and laughing like Bara is invincible to her. Meanwhile, Bara isn't comfortable seeing her happy with another man. He gets up and requests for the band to play what used to be their favorite song. Gayla sings along happily, making him even feel worse. Risty notices the look of jealousy written all over Bara's face, but she keeps her cool. The following day at work, a strange number called Gayla, and on picking up, she discovers it is Bara at the other end of the line. She later meets with her friends and informs them that Bara had asked to meet with her. Sydney instantly discourages her from yielding, but Nandi thinks otherwise. They continue arguing over which decision is best for Gayla to take. That night, while Eamon is driving her home, Gayla informs him of Bara's request to see her the next day. He is not pleased that she accepts to see Bara without informing him. However, he offers to go with her, and he plans to just stay in the car while she's inside with Bara. The following night, Gayla meets with Bara at their scheduled meeting venue. She notices that he is putting on the shirt she got for him. He reveals that he and Risty got into a big fight after they left Lucky Bar, and they ended up breaking up their engagement. He confesses that Risty is not better than her, and asks if she's truly an item with Eamon or not. Bara regrets ever breaking up with her. He apologizes for everything and pleads with her that they reconcile, and he's ready to marry her now. He brings out a ring he had bought for her 3 years ago and places it on the table. In tears, he confesses that he was stupid to have had a fling with Risty, which led to them breaking up. Gayla becomes emotional as she listens to him. Her eyes become filled with tears. She remembers Eamon's words on why he doesn't want to rush into marriage, and afterwards, she requests that Bara give her some time to think over his request as she takes her bag to leave. Gayla gets back into the car and Eamon notices that she has been crying. She narrates all that went down between her and Bara and how her response to his proposal. Eamon is disappointed and confused. He feels like he is merely a distraction to her, even though she claims that she has moved on. However, she is stuck because Eamon doesn't want to let go of his belief that love lasts only for 4 years. She wants to have a family of her own, and she loves him, but she cannot handle another Bara. She requests to drive herself home, and Eamon gets out of the vehicle immediately. Gayla cries her eyes out before driving back home. Her friends meet up with her and try their best to comfort her. She seeks their counsel on which of the men to choose because she's confused. Sydney and Nandy refuse to advise her on that. They encourage her to decide on her own to avoid regrets or anything that will ruin her future. The following morning, Gayla visits her parents' home and finds them playing while eating. She asks her dad to know what made him fall in love with her mother, and her father's answers are exactly why Eamon says he likes her. She reveals to them that Bara is back, and this time, he is proposing marriage. Her parents advised her to do whatever makes her happy, and she must not jeopardize her happiness simply because she wants to fulfill their desire to see her settled in her own family and her kids. Her mother reiterates why she must never consult a psychic on things like this, and her father begins to choke instantly. Gayla smiles as she understands the reason her father is suddenly choking. Gayla spends more time carefully thinking about who she should accept into her heart. She finally decides to meet with Eamon on a cool evening. He orders 2 karak teller from the street vendor who is close by. He apologizes for his behavior the other day and confesses that it's the first time he is getting into a fight with someone he's scared of losing and promises to change. He is moved to tears as he reveals that he's ready to marry her if she gives him another chance to make their relationship official. They hug each other emotionally until the street vendor comes to interrupt them. Gayla meets up with Bara on another evening and informs him that she can't get back to him after all he put her through. She has come to terms with the fact that he isn't the one she needs, therefore, he must be willing to let her go. Bara cries bitterly upon realizing that he has lost Gayla forever thanks to his betrayal. He regrets every single action of his, but it's too late to turn back the hands of time. She approves his request for one last hug, and Bara kisses her forehead like he used to do. The both of them reminisce on the memories they share, and she advises him not to break the heart of the next woman he falls in love with. Eamon and Gayla's relationship gets sweeter as the day goes by. They are walking around a mall when Gayla spots a store for rings. She beckons on him to come with her so they can try out a few rings. Eamon suddenly becomes pale and uncomfortable. She understands that they both have their doubts and reservations, so she makes a quick illustration about marriage to teach him that both of them will need to let go and meet each other halfway. After discussions and careful consideration, they both agree to take a break and give themselves time to completely heal from past hurt and time to finally come to terms with committing to one person for the rest of their lives. Gayla visits her parents, who are no longer pressuring her to find a man. They make jokes about her new marital status, with Gayla's mom singing about her single daughter while her dad does the backup. She laughs until her stomach aches to see the show her parents are putting up. Her next visit is to see her friends and little Ira. Sydney and Nandy express their concerns, but she assures them that she needs more time to be single so she can figure out her feelings. They agree with her. After all, she has a point, and they are willing to support whatever decision she makes. A year later, Gayla meets Reno and his wife at a kiddies' play center in a mall. They brought their daughter to have a fun time. She decides to go inside to check out their girl, only to find Eamon playing with Alana like they are age mates. She watches in admiration until Eamon finally sees her. The duo smile and wave to each other as their hearts begin to instantly reconnect, and the possibilities of reconciling their relationship look real once again.